thoughtful ideas and suggestions for guests and topics.
Great events, programs, and
All the countries and
Welcome to this week's segment of Dialogue Houston. I'm your host, Lawrence Payne. To our regular viewing audience, welcome. To those joining us perhaps for the first time here for HCC TV's Dialogue Houston, we're here now every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m., Saturday afternoons at 3 p.m. As always, at the top of the hour, let me thank you for your thoughtful calls, emails, and text messages concerning previous shows we've aired here on HCC TV, but particularly your great ideas and suggestions and thoughts for future guests and subjects to be covered here on HCC's TV. Dialogue Houston, because after all, this is your public affairs, community affairs show here on HCC, now in its 25th year, 25th season. Thanks to you very much, and we look forward to bringing you some great guests and subjects this year as part of our anniversary year. I have a great show planned for you today. We're going to look at a great aspect of a nonprofit here in Houston that has been doing great work for over 34 years in our city, looking at the area of refugees and alliances with those individuals and helping them, not only refugee resettlement, social education and wellness services, but also financial, educational, health, language, and cultural barriers to overcome as new immigrants. They work with a variety of other organizations in our city. They do it well in partnership for many, many years. And I'm just so happy and proud to have the current CEO, Daniel Stoecker, with us. He's been with the organization now for about 3 years. And Dan, just so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks.
The Alliance is one of those kind of organizations that exists. It does so many things and has tentacles and lots of things. But a lot of people, when I mention the Alliance, as they say, we've heard of it, but I really don't know all what it does because it does so much.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And there's another reason for it too. I mean, the Alliance being here for 34 years, in many of those decades, it spent so much time working with the community and helping the community directly. It didn't do what a lot of nonprofits do, where you traditionally build up a fundraising, a development department, and
yes.
it raised money to help people. Hey, they're needing to overcome this barrier. Can you help us with that?
Right.
And now it's something that in recent years, the Alliance has kind of matured in a way like other nonprofits, organizations, where it needs to have fundraising and grant, donations from the community
Right.
to be able to do its work. And so now we've kind of elevated the brand in a lot of ways, been showing people what we're doing and kind of engaging the community in those traditional ways. But always we've been engaging the community directly. We serve over 10,000 people right now, with about over 112,000 visits the past year with all of those services. And so now we're really looking to get more connections in the community to help us with fundraising so we can help more people.
Well, you've been a good spokesperson since you've been there because you've always been kind of this external person anyway. So you've really gone out and let people know that the Alliance exists, and all what it does. Because I think that's been part of it. You really have to kind of get out there and populate around the community and also develop new partnerships that you have done since you've been there to really get people to understand how they can help and be part of the work of the Alliance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're pleased. We have hundreds of volunteers working with us, and we're trying to make it easier so people know how they can volunteer. Because with all of our programs, you know, we have everything from adult literacy and education, our refugee services work. We have a disaster program, legal services. We have a mental health clinic as well, but we also have a driving school too.
I love it.
Yeah, and then we have some really interesting social enterprises. We're always trying to be innovative, entrepreneurial, and inspiring people to think of themselves that way so that they can not just survive, find a way to survive, but how to thrive.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're about. And so we have like a language and interpretation business called the Alliance Language Network. And that is a way of not only creating new employment opportunities for people, but also providing services for many of the businesses and school districts and things. And we also have another social enterprise called the Community Cloth.
Yes.
It's for
Third award, Community Cloth.
That's right. It's for refugee artisan women.
Mm-hmm.
It creates opportunities for them to share their wares and then also to be able to earn additional income for
Right.
their households.
Community Cloth has been doing great work for many years,
Mm-hmm.
and now that they kind of have come under your umbrella, so to speak, I think they've really grown and developed in the last few years to really, as you say, cover and serve a much broader area, particularly with women.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. I mean, the city of Houston, or the Chamber of Commerce here, Visit Houston
Right.
entity, selected Community Cloth as one of its 3 or 4 artisans
that.
to feature in New York City
Right.
for the big promotion with the media about coming to Houston. We're in discussions with the Smithsonian right now, also because they want to feature local artisan work of immigrant and refugee women in the United States. So we're really proud of our artisans.
And the literacy piece is really something too that has really grown and need to grow. The mayor just opened the mayor's office of literacy, and you were there and part of that work that y'all do in tandem with others. But I think to be able to shine the light on literacy is very important right now because I think people forget how many people in this community still can't read.
Yeah, there's quite a few people that can't, and with the ones that those individuals, those adults that also have children, how are they engaged in their school? How can they really be that coach
Right,
that
right.
those kids need? And so we find that as a big priority for us. It's also a barrier often for people with employment. And so we have a lot of innovative programs for workforce training, adult education, even ESL, but English at work.
Right.
We'll even work with employers to do that too.
And the question becomes always with literacy, we take for granted that people will learn to read at some point. That's not true for many people who had to work 2 or 3 jobs and didn't have the time for school or education or for even reading. To be able to come back and to be able to learn how to read, it's really not a luxury, it's a necessity in this environment. And you said something very important a minute ago. We don't want people just to survive, we want people to thrive.
Right.
And to grow and develop as fully developed human beings to their God-given potential. That takes a lot of the skill sets, a lot of the educational components that you offer at the Alliance. All that's part of that whole package to be able to get it in one location, which is very important.
That's what we usually find when we talk with our clients. They say, yes, I'm here for this, but I need this too. And so we, instead of making them go somewhere else or referring
Right.
them, we try to bring the resources in to make it easier for them to get that because time is very valuable.
Yep.
And a lot of people are still working, even when they're trying to they might not have enough money to support their families yet and maintain a household, but they can't not work
Right.
while they're training.
Right.
So that's the trick. How do we do that? And so sometimes we have to do night programs, evening programs as well. But we try to make sure we intertwine and have the wraparound services.
Right.
Also to save time, people that need read literacy or English, whether it's reading or just
Right.
the language skills, we'll often do that in synchronicity with the other training that we're doing.
Very good.
We don't say, oh, you have to do this first and you can come back for that. We actually put it all together and kind of do that as a curriculum design.
And that's very important because you said the time is limited, particularly if I'm trying to work and have 2 jobs sometimes. So what do you see kind of as the future of this work developing? You know, there's a component of this work which is great social service and charity. There's another component of this work because of the issues you deal with, which is advocacy and moving towards some systemic change, eradication, perhaps policy change, perhaps even some legislation that needs to happen. Because as you've pointed out many times, you do this side and this part of the work, but you're very cognitive of the other side of the issues and work that needs to be done also to be able to change some of the things that you have to serve and work on. Where do you see that kind of going in the future here?
Well, I think with the nice thing is the state, the city, the funding entities that provide funding for literacy, the foundations, all realize we probably need to do something new. And the nice thing is they're looking to see what we can do. We think that it's very important to be focusing on where those adults are and making sure it's easy for them. They can't not go to work,
Right.
like we were talking about,
Right.
and then go to school. How do you do it so that it's convenient for them? That means there's going to be more trends for after hours. Nonprofits are going to have to, and service providers at school are going to have to shift to evening programs. There might even be a third shift.
Night
shift
We've
too.
done that. We've
Yeah.
done it in Houston.
I see that as
yeah.
the direction that I think that the nonprofit sector that provides social services and literacy services is really going to need to do. And the other thing is making sure that there's more partners being worked with. Don't expect everybody to come to you.
Right.
Go have the programs or activities in the local community centers,
Right.
in their places of worship, or a library. We think a library is a big opportunity.
And they're ready. The library stands, particularly Houston Public Library, and Dr. Rhea Brown-Lawson, our director of the Houston Public Library, is very open to that kind of creativity, innovation, to use the public spaces that the libraries are, and to utilize them for whatever programs we can do. We can probably talk about some of those
that's great.
offline
Yeah.
here. So we're going to take a small pause and break, but before we do that, that whole piece about social service, quote unquote, charity, looking at the issues of advocacy and change and development. I don't want to use the word social justice because as soon as you use it, that sends people down a different arena. I'd rather talk about it as the requirements of a community with changing demographics that have to and need to be served, where in many cases the minorities are now the majority, so that changes perspective. And one of the things the lady pointed out to me just this week, she said, I'm trying to go to school, I'm trying to work, I'm trying to do, the piece that's missing for me is childcare.
Right.
She said, if somebody could figure out how to connect my work schedule, my school schedule, and have childcare available so that they would solve half of my problems. But with that, we're going to take a pause and break and pick up maybe that whole issue about
Great.
childcare after the break. As you can see, the Alliance is a multifaceted, wonderful organization covering a lot of issues and territory. We're going to pick up our conversation right after the break, so please stay tuned and we'll be right back.
HCC. So many careers, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
I don't know an industry today that doesn't rely on some amount of coding to run their business. Coding is the 21st century equivalent of the English language. And our particular flavor of this is the iOS Coding and Design School. And Apple's been very supportive and in fact joined with us to roll out the start of this Swift programming initiative. So it's a great opportunity to combine creativity with science and technology, contributing to this app economy.
you're with us for the first part of the show, you know we're having a fascinating conversation with our guest, Daniel Stoecker, who is the CEO of the Alliance. And the Alliance is really one of those multifaceted organizations, as you've been listening, that does a myriad of issues and services in our community. Right before the break, we were focusing on, yes, we offer all these great services. Yes, we have accessibility to these services in many ways, with classes going on day and even night. But the barrier for many people is still the issue of child care. And you hear that comes up often, more than not. I'm juggling my work schedule, I'm juggling my school schedule, I'm juggling these things I'm doing with other organizations, nonprofits. If I could have somebody just help me figure out the child care, I could be much more successful than I am now.
That's right. And that's our challenge, and we've taken some unique approaches to trying to address this, to overcome that barrier for people. One is we have on-site babysitting service. It's not where people drop off their kids,
right,
to take it, but while they're in their classes, or training for different things, or seeing a financial coach, or whatever services, we have a babysitting service. And we want to expand that to our other locations, because the Alliance has other locations now. But these are things that when you were talking about advocacy earlier, these are things that the funders don't always fund along with the program.
But they've always had problems funding child care. I don't understand that.
So we're doing it, but that's an area we really need like a donor to step up and say, hey, we want to sponsor your babysitting.
Or the public to start talking to funders more about, look, this is not a luxury, this is a necessity.
Right, and the people, we do charge a fee,
right,
but it's minimal. You know, it's not just because that way they have buy-in too, and they take responsibility for things, and so that's a big challenge. But some other things we've done as we've learned more about this in the community, we've got training programs for home care businesses. So we help train people to become certified home care
licensed, and
everything. Yeah. And we're looking at how to expand that and develop that. We're even, long-term, we're realizing we should probably create a daycare center ourselves, because there's a lot of people, that's a growing profession. Some jobs are going away.
And skilled certified daycare is another thing.
And people that can speak the different languages and have the cultural competencies that this diverse Houston has.
Very important.
Those are our clients, and that way we can train people that people would be comfortable with. They probably live in their neighborhoods too. And so those are some things we're looking at innovatively to deal with things more longer term. But right now we're looking how to build the capacity for our babysitting service to help our clients.
You know, a home child care center is a great entrepreneur job and position for lots of people who stay at home, mothers and others. And I used to know, what's the number? You can only have 7, is it 7, 10? There's a number there if you do it at home.
It depends upon the size, but it's about 10, and then there's certain qualifications and things.
But it's doable. It's doable.
Sometimes when they get certified, it might be in an apartment instead of a home. There needs to be some alterations or something. Well, we have, besides our training, we have a whole small business development program too, and we're an SBA microlender as well. So when people are graduating, when we're doing the review of their sites, they may need a little, like a loan to help them do something to get started, and that's something that we can also help them with in starting their businesses, because that's actually, they're running their own business.
Probably can find some volunteers to knock out a wall if we need to make the space. Because it's very doable and simple these days.
Yeah, and we work with we'll go talk to the apartment complex owners, because they see it as a value for retaining tenants.
It's to everybody's advantage.
That's right.
And the funders, I think, are slowly beginning to understand that that's part of the package in their funding. They may need some more prodding and pushing by you, the public, from an advocacy standpoint. Because it's always been the piece that's been kind of missing in this whole development of the human being with skill sets and new knowledge to be able to have a truly not just survive, but a lifestyle that they can thrive and grow and develop. So where do you see I kind of touched on it in the first part of the show, but I want to go back to it. Where do you see the future of all this going? I mean, just because we can do a thing doesn't mean we need to always continue to do the same thing. At some point, we got to turn this model and flip it a little bit to start looking at systemic change and eradication of the things that cause all these people to need this myriad of services. Poverty is obviously the issue. And how do we begin to address some of the things that create this growing, the numbers don't seem to be declining, the numbers seem to be going up. of people in need of these type of social services?
Well, our goal is to work with individuals that want to become self-sufficient and want to be living with a sense of well-being in a welcoming community. There's two kind of components there. You want to be able to take care of yourself, but you want to feel like you belong.
Right.
And so we make sure we're focusing on that with the person before we're just giving them a service. This is what we do. Is that what you want? And almost everybody wants that, but we reaffirm, what is your motivation?
Right.
Is that where we're going? And so then they see this as a way, at some point they're going to not be needing services anymore. They might come back because they want to get training for a better job,
Right.
or some sort of coaching for to build their assets, their credit scores through our financial programs too. But in general, that's how we work with people. We're seeing that's retaining clients, and people are working with us to kind of, because sometimes to get to that point, you don't just show up and get something. You
Right.
have to work with us to learn certain things, to coach, and to move in a certain direction. And so that's what we're doing. We see that's working. And so that's the focus, is really getting that kind of agreement, a buy-in, and then helping them, what are the barriers? And what we do as an agency, we recognize the disparities in society. We're all about equity of access to opportunity. There's opportunities out there, but somehow people, sometimes they're not getting them because of language or culture, and sometimes it's maybe something just inside them.
Intrinsic.
There's something that they're not feeling good about. They've been rejected enough times. They're dealing with issues that are other personal things.
Right.
So we look at how to help with that too. That's why we added a mental health component.
Very important.
We see that's very important for everything. Even for, we have people that don't go to job interviews when we have jobs ready for them after they've been, we realize there's something else going on that we need to help address. And so that's where we see things going, is that kind of holistic way of looking at working with that full human, recognizing their talents, how wonderful they are, and then helping them get to where what they've committed to and said where they want to go.
That key, I think, that has that sense of belonging you mentioned, because I think, you know, we see that in society now, in this kind of divided, bifurcated society, and the issues that we talked about in the past are kind of coming back now between quote unquote the dominant and subdominant cultures in society. You have all that at play again. Someone commented the other day that they feel right now in this era that we're in right now, it feels like 1968 all over again. Because you're talking about some of the same issues, the resegregation of schools, poverty, et cetera, et cetera. And the component back then was the sense of family, the sense of belonging. Robert Putnam's little book about Bowling Alone speaks very clearly to the phenomena in society today that people are yearning. It's a deep desire and yearning to have this sense of belonging, the sense of family, the sense of tribe even. That's why gangs are on the growth and development. Gangs gives a sense of belonging, a sense of family. And HPD will tell you that the number of gangs and the number of gang membership in this city is constantly growing because there's a void there. And I think because, as we talked even in the segment with the Girl Scouts earlier, the lack of character education in our schools is coming home to roost now in so many ways, because the parent or the adult, responsible adult, or the guardian, who, as you just said so clearly, is trying to develop their own life fully as a human being, but the challenges of working two jobs, of trying to go to school, of being present for your children if you have children, it's getting harder. So some of those values that you and I grew up with that were passed on in the home, reinforced in the school, even reinforced at places of worship on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, church, parish, temple, synagogue, and mosque, none of that really exists the way it used to. So you have kids without a foundational background to really understand what is expected of them in a civilized society, because no one's actually been around to teach them.
Right.
So we see that with adults. When I ran Search for the Homeless, I learned, and actually with Habitat also, but more with Search, that when I started engaging more with our wonderful clients and people we serve, when they tell their story, they never had the foundational pieces that we take for granted of how to be part of a society, of a democracy, as what does citizenship mean, all those things, they never had that. And then you turn and toss in some kind of mental issue condition, whether it was alcoholism or drugs or something, their whole life has never been in a stable kind of thing the way we think about stability of a family. And so now you get what you have. And so I think the thing that you say so clearly, unless you can connect all the dots of what's happening with the person in their lives, to be holistic and serve them as the whole person with all their needs, you're not going to get there.
That's right.
You're just not going to get there. You're not going to get the results you're seeking for them. You're not going to get the results of the time put in by the staff in helping them. It's just not going to happen unless you know the whole picture to be able to serve the whole human being.
Absolutely.
We're going to switch quickly, real quick, in the time we have left. You have a great event coming up that I want to make sure we talk about real quick.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, to support what we do, we have an event that's called United We Dine.
Yeah.
It's a kind of an international culture and food festival. It's not a traditional gala. It's more, we feature chefs, restaurants of people that are locally owned businesses that serve food. The people in the hall can go around and get the food.
I've
We
been
have
there once.
entertainment.
It was a great event.
And it's
Great
a lot of
event.
fun. It's a lot of social networking that goes on. That's going to be November 14th.
Okay.
And on our website, there's an opportunity to see how you can go to United We Dine on the website and see if you'd like to sponsor or get tickets and other ways that you can get involved with us.
November 14th at Kim Sung at 6:30. Kim Sung right here, the big one downtown.
Oh, it's going to be the one in Bel Air.
I'm
this
sorry,
time,
the one in you.
Yeah, we're going to do the Bel
You
Air
switch.
one.
Okay, the one in Bel Air. The thing about that event I love, because it's not a traditional sit-down kind of banquet and luncheon thing, you get to mix and mingle, you get to develop relationships, you get to talk with people, meet people, exchange cards, but you get to do the thing that really, I think, bonds people together. You said, united we dine. You get to break bread with other human beings different than yourself.
Right.
And there's something still magical about breaking bread together and having a conversation over breaking bread and eating and drink. And so you get to have that room where you get to walk around and mix and mingle. It's just I think it's one of the perfect events.
Well, then we have the wonderful crowd. Houston, it reflects the community of Houston.
Exactly, yeah.
We have that diversity together, and it just makes it a lot of fun for everybody. Yeah.
We have to get out of here.
Okay.
Thank you very much. This has been
Appreciate
fun. So again, it's Kim Sung in Bel Air, November 14th, 6:30. Go to their website, get all the information you need, buy your tickets, buy a table, invite friends, not a table, buy a bunch of tickets and bring people together and have fun and eat and drink and dine and talk and develop relationships. It is about the quality, more and more in Houston, this great pluralistic society of Houston, 145 languages spoken in the city every day, et cetera. It is more and more about the quality of our relationships. The relationships built on mutual trust and respect, where we begin to really know each other's story and journey in life, and we can work together and get things done. Because it's increasingly clear that nothing happens without trust. Nothing happens without trust. We have to get to know each other. We have to spend time together. We have to break bread together. We have to spend eyeball to eyeball across the table with each other, looking at tonality, inflection of face and change and voice, to really and listen to the stories. It's all about the stories, life stories, and we all have stories. And the more I know about your story and journey, the more I can be part of your life. We got to get out of here. So until we see you again, thank you for being part of Dialogue Houston this week. Until then, peace, power, and love.